Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
All right, guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. I'm beyond grateful to have the guest we do today, Mr. Eric Upchurch. How you doing, sir?
How are you? Glad to be here.
Doing great. And first and foremost, because I do live in San Antonio, military capital of the United States, I just want to thank you for your service, my good man.
You bet. Absolutely. Glad to serve.
So I'm not going to do too much about Eric's bio, but we'll go a couple. Former active duty military, culinary school, has traveled to both sides of the coast, and has an amazing group they started. I'm familiar with a little bit of their work as we met for a couple minutes, helping current military and former military duty members invest, education. Yeah. So many great things. So why don't you get us started on kind of your journey, how you got started, and take us in military and learning how to be an investor.
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, by and large, the military's job is not to train us how to invest. It's not, I mean, there's a thrift savings plan, which is the military's equivalent of like a retirement, like a 401k. But, they're training warfighters and people protecting our borders. And so rightfully so, it's not their job to teach how to invest and how to retire early maybe, or how to build extra side, sources of income. So, knowing all of what we do now, our CEO started just kind of taking note of what he was going through as he was, started with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and just kind of annotating from a military standpoint what it meant to be an investor, what it took to, build a life that he wanted, what passive income meant. And he was following Pat Flynn at the time, and his podcast and stuff, the passive income. And so he came up with the idea of active duty passive income and wrote the beginnings of the ebook, which is now our book on Amazon, Military House Hacking. So all it really is, what we've been able to do is say, that's not the military's role. So now we know how to do this. So let's teach the military how to do this. Anyone who has served, past or present, military spouses and family members can come to us and just understand nuts and bolts of what passive income streams look like, specifically, mostly in the real estate space right now, but anything from live-in flipping to military house hack, which I can talk about in a second, but multifamily investing, single family investing, and our team is incredible. We have so much experience and knowledge in almost every single asset or facet, I guess, both ways, in real estate investing. So now we're not only the premier military real estate investing education hub and center, but we have a financial services division offering better, cheaper, faster loans. We actually created the first ever we have our own branch, mortgage branch. It's a first ever 100% employee owned stock option mortgage branch, an ESOP. Wow. So our loan officers, who normally a loan officer, paying the broker their fees or basis points, kind of like a real estate agent for those of you who are not familiar with how this works, but like a real estate agent would pay a broker to hang their license with a brokerage, right? Well, a loan officer would pay a mortgage broker a fee. But the difference in what we've created here is our loan officers pay the brokerage that they are an owner of. And now the brokerage goes and buys commercial real estate to fund pensions for the owners. So it's an amazing, cool thing that's really taken off. And so because we have very little overhead in this, we have no debt on that company, on that structure. So it's just we're able to scale it, and loan officers get. I don't mean to spend a lot of time on this, but it's crazy what we're doing, because loan officers have no limitation on what they can create, and they own pro rata that percentage of the business. Okay, so financial services division, we're done with that. Then now we're teaching agents on a national level how to help military investors buy their primary residence and treat it like an investment. Because remember, the military move every 2 to 3 years, right? Sometimes 1 to 3 years now. A lot of even our partners at API are moving every year, it seems like right now. So you buy a home to live in with the VA loan, which is an amazing product. But if you don't run the numbers right, you may end up floating the bill and not cash flowing. And maybe you can't sell it, or maybe you don't want to sell it when you get done, move to your next duty station. So you could get stuck with something that doesn't work as an investment. So now we have a network of real estate agents nationwide that are actively teaching, their buyers, their military buyers, how to consider every single home that they buy as a potential future real estate investment. So just stuff that's not being done. Because we've created an amazing community, then these types of things are coming to us. We didn't create a product and then try and figure out who our community is. We have a community of 10,000 people in just our Facebook group right now with a 95% engagement rate, and it's growing by 10% a month over month right now, because there's so much value in there. So anyway, all of this you can see how passionate I am about this, because I'm super long-winded about it, but it's an amazing thing to watch unfold, as I have for the last 2.5, 3 years, as one of the co-founders at ADPI. So super excited about it. And yeah, maybe I'll let you ask a question or put in a word here instead of me rambling.
At the end of the day, a lot of my buddies are Coast Guard or Navy.
Yeah.
One of my performance coaches, ex-Navy. My business partner now is currently in the military and a helicopter pilot like you were, but you were doing crazy stuff. We'll talk about that in a minute. But there is something that I find, I said it on a previous podcast, there is something I find amazing about being in business with somebody that is military trained. And the reason I say that is there's such a level of discipline and duty, right, to share with others. And I think that's why the engagement in your community is so great, because hearing it in your voice, I know that you're more excited. Yeah, of course you want to buy a 1,000-unit apartment complex, but I bet you, because you're like me, you find more enjoyment out of the pure education of seeing a guy that maybe is from a rural town that didn't get any sort of this education, being able to supercharge his life, by doing this education, right?
That is the sole reason, well, 2 reasons actually, why I chose to be enlisted. So I went to college. I went to UC Santa Barbara. I got my bachelor's degree, then chose to be enlisted after college. 2 reasons. One was because the loan repayment program paid off all of my college debt. The other was because most people would go and be an officer after college. I chose to be enlisted because I knew that my mission in life was to educate, empower, and to help people grow. So because I went into the military as an E4, as a specialist in the Army, and I was able to immediately, as a 24-year-old guy, almost 25 years old, start mentoring guys, just like you said, who are 18 years old and have no idea. Actually, a lot of guys I served with had never been out of their county.
Yeah, exactly.
Never been on an airplane until basic training.
And you know more than I do. People don't understand. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but they act like all the people in the military are from LA or like, Chicago. No. These people are from South Carolina, Nebraska. They probably haven't left their city. Maybe they lived in a town. I know I'm a broad stroke, but a lot of these towns aren't bigger than 5,000, 10,000 people. So they're absolutely so unique to this idea. Right?
I know a guy, actually, my Army dentist told me one time, he's like, you would not believe how many people that he cleans their teeth or whatever he does, that have never brushed their teeth before. That struck me as like, okay, now we're talking, this is a different level. Like this is, so exactly what you said. It doesn't matter if you're broad stroke or not. There's a reason that exists. There's a reason that, what you just said is true. There's people coming from, backwoods, wherever, most of the time, and they have an opportunity to serve their country. They have an opportunity to leave and to grow and to learn. And they're the first ones in their town to ever leave sometimes. So yeah, definitely not LA and New York. All of them anyway. So yeah, and providing some level of education to me was amazing. I got actually as a staff sergeant, ended up as an E6, and I made everyone. I was in charge of 27 guys in my squad, and every single one of them I made start a college curriculum most of these guys, and so they would come to me with a curriculum because they're all required to, and then they would actually enroll in college, whether it be Webster University or Columbia College or whatever. I don't care if it was a junior college on post or an online college or whatever it was, but I'd help them get through the paperwork because these kids thought college was for rich people or smart people. And I said, no. Look, man, I'm a walking testament to that. You don't have to be rich or smart to get through college. Mm-hmm. You just have to grind, and you have to be willing to, sometimes it was just the paperwork. They didn't want to get through the paperwork. Mm-hmm. So anyway, all of them enrolled in college and, got to a point where they could go and attend during the duty day. So little things like that, man, just really got me going. And yes, to go back full circle to what you were saying, that's why I do this stuff. It's fulfilling my life passion and mission. And so I kind of do some of this stuff selfishly, but it also benefits other people.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't agree more. I mean, for me, it took me 7 bad deals and about 6 years to buy my first property. Some of them died, the day before closing. And then I bought a house, and I bought 2 in a year. And I realized that one of my missions in life was to, this sounds so odd, but my favorite thing to do in the entire world is to help people buy their first investment property.
Nice.
Because what I love to do is take all the emotion out of it for them. Let me handle the emotion. You realize that it's sheetrock and 2x4s.
Yes.
And you create a business decision. Once you separate it in a business decision, my wife laughs at me because I'm sure you're like me. I'll walk into a house and buy a $280,000 house like I'm buying a Twix.
Yeah.
Because I know the mechanism that it can create, because I come from the Airbnb space, and we won't talk about what's happening in Airbnb right now, but I'm just saying in general, on the long-term scale. And that's why for me, the next step for me is multifamily. And so I would imagine that you see a light bulb come on with these active duty military guys when they're like, holy crap, I don't have to go work in said job. Like, I could just do this. And I'm sure y'all have a lot of success stories.
We have a ton of success stories, people who are getting out and people who are just getting started. Actually, we have a young lieutenant just reached out to me a while ago and said he just bought a house at Fort Benning, and which is Columbus, Georgia. And he is renting out 2 rooms to 2 of his lieutenant buddies. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, well, he read our book, Military House Hacking. There it is. He's like, that's a military house hack. He uses VA loan. His other guys, so 0 down, no PMI. Mm-hmm. So no cash out of pocket. And you can actually buy up to a 4-plex with the VA loan.
Sure.
No money out of pocket.
Yep.
And no PMI.
Yep.
And then in a couple of years, if you have enough equity, you can refinance it to a conventional loan. You may actually qualify for a second VA loan anyway, without even refinancing to a conventional loan. But then it's an amazing thing to be able to buy a 4-plex at every duty station you go to, no money out of pocket, no PMI, and it's cash flowing. You're living for free and making cash flow. So it's great.
The number one thing that after I used my VHA loan, I was like, the number one thing I thought about coming from a military point of view is, if you're a military and you have 0% down, buy the biggest property you can with the biggest cash flow numbers, because you will never be able to get into a property with that with no money.
Yeah, and if you're dual VA, there are some additional stipulations, meaning you and your spouse are both either active or former or prior service. You can actually buy up to, I think it's like 7 units on a property, one or two being like a commercial building. There's some stipulation there. I don't know, because that's one of those rare things that you can actually do. But we know people that have had 3 simultaneous VA loans. I've had 2 myself because I moved back to the San Francisco Bay Area after I got out. So
it's amazing. And I'm going to say this while I'm thinking of it, and then I'll remind you after the call.
Okay.
I would love to come on just because I love to do this. And I would love to teach your members Airbnb, because cool. I believe that Airbnb next to military bases are a game changer. And the reason I say that is because we have Lackland, we have Brook City Base. I would venture to guess that 30% of my bookings come from people coming to visit their kids in graduations. And I'm 20 miles away from the bases. So can you imagine if you were right next to it,
Definitely. We have a lot of Airbnb folks in our group, and it's a growing popular thing. I don't do any Airbnb yet, but mostly sticking to multifamily. But then multifamily for me also, I know people in multifamily that keep a certain percentage, like 5% of their units in every apartment complex Airbnb.
So what they
spend
what they
$5,000 to furnish the thing, and
what they don't tell you is that is the loophole in the city government laws. Multifamily normally is the loophole. Like in Austin, you can't do it if you don't live there, but you can do it in multifamily. So these are the things that investors, as you peel back the layers, you can continue to go. Love what you're doing in the group, but let's talk about you personally, kind of your journey. I was reading your bio, very interesting. Bought a house and was 2006.
Yeah, great time to put 100% leverage on a house.
I mean, seriously. Woo!
Yeah, but we lived in it for 4 years after we used that VA loan. I was in Iraq when I bought the house. My wife was stateside, and just wanted a nice new construction house, and things were going up, and but we ended up living there for 4 years before we turned it into a rental. And when I got out of the service in early 2011, and it was cash flowing, quote unquote, cash flowing net after paying property management about $80 a month, which I would never have bought that property knowing what I know now.
Crushing it.
Because it is just, the numbers don't work. And that's happening by the thousands every day in the US right now. There are military members who are buying their dream, property outside of Fort Campbell, Kentucky for $200,000, or Savannah, Georgia, where I was stationed, for a couple $100,000. And unless that sucker's cash flowing $2,000 a month for rent, don't buy that. Buy something, live within your means while you're there temporarily, and turn that sucker into a rental later. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I did that, and that was kind of like, okay, well, I wasn't even thinking about real estate investing in 2006 to 2012. And in 2012, I kind of, having that one rental, moved back to the Bay Area, bought another house, second simultaneous VA loan for $500K, which was the cheapest house we could find. It was actually an attached unit at the time. And, that was, again, zero down, but 2 years later we're $690. So we sold that, and that house was a gorgeous house, all the bells and whistles in a great neighborhood. And, but it appreciated. That was just luck, maybe, market appreciation in the San Francisco Bay Area in 2012. But then my wife and I were kind of like, hey, there might be something to this. Can we duplicate that? Because we didn't have any debt, because we were, doing the Dave Ramsey stuff or whatever, to get out of debt. But now we're like, okay, how are we going to build capital? So starting our capital building phase, that was kind of it right there. Then we bought a house down by the beach. It was $900K. So again, and I had a W-2 job. I was there in California.
How the hell are you buying a $900K house in the military?
No. I'm out at this point. 2012,
okay.
I'm out. Yep. So I had a W-2 job, and so I could barely afford the payment, but we were aware of what we were doing at that point, and we had made some cash from the first market appreciation home. So now we're like, we bought a house 2 blocks from the beach. We knew it needed to be renovated. So because I went to a single family fix and flip conference, I met a guy there, which, by the way, I was the guy who got upsold. Like, hey, here's a free 90-minute boot camp, or 90-minute.
How much was that course?
It was all together with the upsell of the boot camp and the advanced training. It was like $26K.
$26K.
Yeah, and I'm
Did
a guy.
Your wife just tear you up?
And listen. That was like all the savings that we had accumulated.
Oh,
but I had a conversation with my wife about this, because we're a team, and she was like, she knew based on my military background and my experience. Every course I went to, I was a distinguished honor graduate, and not to say that not to brag, but I'm just saying she knew my drive. She knew that if I put my mind on something, it's going to happen, because I'm not going to quit until it happens. So she was like, okay, fine. So long story short, I met a guy there who was a custom home builder in the Bay Area, made that relationship with him. He renovated. He helped me with his laborers renovate that property. I put $50K, the money that poofed out of nowhere from the last house we bought, put that money into it, turned a 4-bedroom into a 3-bedroom, but got some space, like added 6 feet to the master bathroom, and just anyway, made it a beautiful beach house. 9 months later, that $900,000 house we sold for 1.158 cash. And so that was amazing. And then we did it again in an East Bay town, really nice East Bay town, but live in flipping. So we have our kids with us as we're living in these properties.
How many kids do you have at the time?
We have 2 boys.
2 boys.
Yeah. And so anyway, so wholesaling, flipping, live-in flipping, these are all kind of capital building phase type of activities that you can do if you're getting started in real estate. And we happen to just be aware enough and interested enough to read books and podcasts. I mean, I was like listening to, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and
I want to stop right here because this is what everybody talks about.
Think and Grow Rich.
The courses, right?
Yeah.
True story. If you're being honest with yourself, it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I know the information's a lot more out there than it used to be. Do you feel like it was worth it? Because this is the question that all the new people ask me.
Yeah, great. So I will never not pay for coaching the rest of my life. I will never not pay for masterminds the rest of my life. I pay a lot of money now for masterminds and for coaching because you're surrounding yourself by people who have traveled the path that you want to be on. Mm-hmm. So always, always, always pay for these things. However,
make sure you vet them very well.
Vet them, absolutely. But you need to, so like the one I went to now was placed on probation by the FTC because they had too many complaints, and like they're trying to teach Joe Schmo me how to flip houses in the San Francisco Bay Area in 2013. Like I can't do that. People are paying $1.7 million for a 1,100 square foot shack that's worth $1 million. So who am I to do that? But so here's what I learned from that. The money was worth it because I would never have made that connection. If you go to those things with intention, if you go to any real estate education course with intention to gain something, like I'm going to go meet this team member, I need to find a deal, I need to raise capital for my next thing. If you go with intention, it's worth the money every time. So because I was willing to take that leap and it kind of lit a fire under my butt. If you put that much money into a course, you better get it back. But the problem is, and the reason that thing had to shut down, and that was like an HGTV, a big course with like all the stars lined up on it and all that stuff. But the reason it shut down is because 95% of the people who go to those courses aren't action takers. Mm-hmm. If I was running one of those shows, I would specifically try to weed people out who are not ready to be there.
1,000%.
Yeah.
I always make the joke when I get feeling a little loose. I want to be a motivational speaker. My seminar is going to be guys that have been divorced more than 3 times. It's going to last 30 seconds. I'm going to walk in. I'm going to go, obviously what you're doing is not working. I'm just going to walk out. And that's what you're saying is that and I agree with this 1,000%. When I met you at Best Conference Ever, there was identified intent people that I wanted to meet and be, luckily I got to meet you. But what I'm saying is, my buddy says the same thing. He's a cannabis CEO. You have to make an intention when you start any course, any podcast, any class, any meetup, anything. I can't tell you a meetup that's had 4 people, but you meet that one person. Yeah. That meets this one person I can't tell you how many times it's happened to me.
Yep. You're one conversation away from your next deal every single time. And I tell people this too. Some of our coaching students, I'm like, you never, ever judge a book by its cover when you go network somewhere, because, and especially at a multifamily conference, some of my best friends in this industry now that I met at multifamily conferences were wearing like hoodies and ball caps and, jeans and stuff. And they're really successful people. So you really can't judge a book by its cover in those. But yeah, go with intention, meet who you need to meet. But everybody you talk to along the way, like you and I struck up a conversation. We didn't know each other, but it leads to good things if you don't just like say, I don't really know, or you're not paying attention to the conversation, maybe, and a lot of people come up and quote unquote network with you, but they're looking straight through your head. Yeah. So be intentional, and you never know who you're going to run across. And I love the piece of this that I love more than anything. And my team at Active Duty Passive Income knows this, that I'm kind of the PR guy. I'll go out and intentionally network with people, but I want to do more than just network. I want to be the connector of people. So I'm listening to you, Austin, to see what your problems are, and not asking what your problems are, but actually listening for it.
Sure.
Behind what you're saying, and just in your attitude and in your whatever it is. And then I'll find somebody else who can solve that problem. And then I become the connector of two people. And if anyone out there is listening to this and you do that, adding value to other people will get you further in this business than anything else out there. Having a good attitude and connecting people.
I am the human connector. That would be an understatement. I literally do that all day. Something that we do in our business, a nice little tactical thing for people. I learned it from one of my business coaches. I have an intake form because my business partner is spreadsheet oriented and like just not me. Yeah. And I talk to a freaking post. And every time I meet somebody, we put in their information, but the last line is, what do they love to do? And what are their hobbies? And the reason we're doing that is we're spotting moments randomly to send them gifts, to connect with them with an experience that would make them happy. People don't understand that this business, you can know almost next to nothing as far as real estate, because I truly believe that real estate is learned by doing. But if you, this is something me and my mentor talk about at the time. Likability is the secret weapon of real estate. Yeah. If people want to do business with you and they want to be around that energy, listen, I'm very excitable. That's an understatement. I'm working on it. Right. But as my mentor said, your excitement and your passion has got you in more doors than has ever closed on you. Yeah. And that's what people don't understand. If you have nothing in the business, like my assistant that I'm training right now, he's a music producer and a traveling musician for 15 years. He doesn't know anything about real estate. I said, bro, show up with an open mind and shake everybody's hand, take their business card, and then reach out to them 2 days later. And that's what he does. And now he's talking to people that have like 3,000 units. And he's like, what's happening? And I go, because you're hanging around me, because that's the way I operate.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, another good example of that, you never know who's around, and you should be networking with everyone that you encounter. My dentist knows that I'm a multifamily investor. People at the VA know that I'm a multifamily investor. I mean, the gas station guy knows that I'm an investor. But I went to a New Year's Eve party, and there were like, in my neighborhood, like 3 blocks from here, and there were 12 adults there and just tons of kids. And one of the guys I ended up talking to, with 12 people, you can kind of talk to everybody, but he just asked what I was doing. I said, I'm a multifamily investor and I do all this other stuff. And he goes, oh, cool. Yeah, I am too. And he goes, how many doors do you have? I was like, oh, almost 600 or something. And he's like, cool. Yeah. So this is how banter goes. This is how rapport is built, right? I was like, how many doors do you have? What's your experience level is really what we're looking for here. And he's like, oh, I got about 6,000 or so, give or take. And I was just like, let's have lunch. So now, I don't know if you saw this. I posted recently.
I think I saw it, right?
He and I are drinking sipping on a glass of $2,500 bourbon that he brought out. We're social distancing in his driveway down the street.
That's what I'm talking about. See, guys, and that's what he's saying. Random guy at a party. I met a guy the other day, owned a tire shop, right? I'm sitting there with a friend of mine, and he goes, hey, you need to meet this guy. He's had this famous tire shop and for like 30 years. And we get to talking. He's like, oh yeah, I do a little real estate investing. I was like, yeah, no shit. He's like, yeah, I got 80 single family houses. I'm like, what?
That's a little, yeah.
But like, that's what he's getting to. That's what Eric's saying. Yeah. Like, guys, you don't know, like these people, some people are shy. Some people, they just don't, it's so secondary to them. They're like, it's whatever. And that's when you meet these guys. Now, I will tell you this, and we'll get back to the story. I found, just from my personality, I love multifamily investors. There is such a expansion of the mind to take down a project of that size. I'm not saying that single family is wrong. Everybody has their own opinions. I just love the scalability, not only in the business, but also in the mind that people think greater.
Yeah, there are a lot of differences. I did only like 10 single families before I went to my first conference and had the eye-opening, like, oh, what am I doing experience. But what I know, and just from being in this industry in general, is the difference between again, to generalize, single family and multifamily is abundance over scarcity mindset. I mean, it is a team mentality in the multifamily space from what I can see. And I've only been in this 2 years, and the difference is appalling. It's amazing that the people in the multifamily space are willing to work together and share deals. I mean, I send off-market deals to friends that, that I find that aren't in my area, or in where I'm looking, and I don't expect anything from it. They're just my friends. And, in the single family world, there would be a wholesale fee attached to something like that, or that's my deal. This is my territory. Get off my turf. There's a little bit more scarcity mindset. And again, everyone listening, I'm just generalizing here, but I think people who have been in the industry long enough.
No. You're 100%
Don't tear me apart.
Yeah. I mean, that's why so coming out of what we're dealing with right now, we're creating a wholesale company here that I'm going to oversee, but my assistant's going to run. And one of the reasons I'm doing that, obviously, whatever, but to make money. But one of the reasons I'm doing it is because I can't stand wholesalers in the single family space. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it right, and I'm going to do it with respect. And you're 100%.
You don't like 30% inflated ARVs?
Well, what I'm hoping to do is to get about $90K off my first wholesale. Make sure that the repairs are like, tell them it's 30, but it's really like 90.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. Just normal stuff.
That's what I mean. The
Anybody that's been in the game knows what we're talking about.
The Craigslist pro formas are amazing.
Yeah, they're so best. So you do the live-in flips, the 2 live-in flips, and then what brought you to what shifted the mentality to the multifamily space where now you have 600 650 doors. So
I went. So a buddy of mine, kind of two things really. A buddy of mine has now syndicated over $2 billion in multifamily. I had not been talking to him, but his name's Damien. He owns Gelt Incorporated.
Never heard of him.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
No big deal.
They started by buying a duplex in Bakersfield, a fourplex in Bakersfield in 2008, and then just blew up, and now they're doing thousands of doors a year type of thing. So anyway, so he and I had stayed in touch because he was on my wife's gymnastics team in college, and he and I he had the same major and we had the same birthday. So we just had some connections that we were just like, hey, let's stay in touch. So he goes, why don't you come down next time you're in LA and come to my office and we'll chat. So he goes, Eric, let me just give you an idea of, I didn't know what the word syndication was at this point. And this is like 2017, I think. He's like, so on this last deal, had you placed $100,000 on this deal that we owned for 5 years, I would have paid you back $290K. And that was a home run deal for sure. But the fact of the matter is he's making people rich. And I was just like, okay, that's pretty amazing. Where do I sign up? So that was my first investment, which I'm still in. It was a 439 unit mobile home portfolio. And so we invested in that deal. It was amazing. And it was kind of my first limited partner piece. And I didn't know anything other than just being an LP at that point. So then I got connected with 2 of the other co-founders of Active Duty Passive Income. And long story short, our CEO had been following Rod Cleef, and he was like he's active duty Marine still. And he was like stationed down in San Diego. He's like, I can't make it to the LA thing, but I have a ticket. Do you want it? And I said, well, yeah, I'll go. So I sat there for 3 days drinking through a fire hose, and I was like doing just starting to do some flips in Kansas City with a buddy of mine named Brett, who I grew up with in the Midwest. But what we were finding is how difficult it was to refinance. We were just doing the BRRRR strategy and holding these properties. And, but the refinance process was like, they need 90 documents from me every single time that we do this. And it was getting frustrating. So at the same time, I had gone to this multifamily conference, and I was just like, if I'm going to submit 90 pieces of paper to some bank, I would rather get 80 to 100 units out of it than one. So how can I do this? Is what I started asking different questions. And I went to the next boot camp in Chicago and took my partner, and we signed up for coaching, and we executed. And 9 months later, 212 door, 208 door. Then we were doing and those were kind of co-sponsored deals. Then we found an 80 unit that we closed on.
Hold. Don't gloss over that. Your first deal was 212?
But it was I was a co-sponsor on that deal. So, but hold on. Yeah.
I want them to get value.
Sure.
A lot of people's ego would say like, oh, I'm just a co-sponsor and everything. But did you learn things inside that deal, even though your hands weren't fully around it, is what I'm trying to get at.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Look, had I not taken the action to learn the mechanics. So here's what gets you there. For the success formula, in my opinion, is learn every single thing you can about the business that you want to achieve in, right? So that's podcasts, books, conferences, whatever. Learn. Then network your butt off like there's no tomorrow. Everyone within arm's distance should know what you do. And then the third thing is add as much value to other people as possible over and over and over again, because it will amplify your success. And then the fourth thing is take action. If you do those four things over and over again, 1% better every day is your goal. Success will hunt you down. So knowing that, I started doing that in the circle that I had just kind of met in the coaching circle. I was a student and just learning, and I was always positive and always trying to help people and always showing that I was taking action and learning these step by step. So eventually, people came to me and said, would you like to co-sponsor? Would you like to be part of this with us? We see your attitude. We see you're always present. We see you're going to these conferences. You're spending the time, the money, the effort. You have unwavering commitment to your decision in this industry. And so, then I'm like learning how to raise capital. I'm learning how to deal with investors, which is sometimes like herding cats, but I love that piece of it now. And so, I learned a ton even from, and I recommend everybody do this. Find somebody who's already doing it and has had tremendous success, and go try to build a team with them. Try to find some way that you can get into their circle and add enough value to them that they'll invite you in. Then you can learn, and then eventually you go off on your own and do your own thing. I mean, now we're buying about an 80 unit in November. We bought a 73 pad mobile home park in December, and all in 2019, 571 doors. First full year in multifamily. Oh, and by the way, I have a wife, a kid, 2 kids, a W-2 job, and then we have active duty passive income, the mortgage branch, an insurance company, and more. So I'm doing all of this with multifamily on the side. Still have a full-time job.
What are you doing for your full-time job?
Sales. I'm in sales and marketing in California. I stay at home. This is my home office.
You heard all of that, and this man is still doing all that. So what I want to drill down to, and I want to really stick here for a second, because I personally think, and this maybe just me and you think a lot alike. Yeah. I think mindset is number one above knowledge or anything. And notice what he said there a minute ago, guys. Add value to somebody. Don't just ask. Add value to them. Dude, the 2 biggest connections I have in the real estate space, you know where I met them? Instagram DMs.
Yep.
And I just kept adding value until now we're like best friends. Yep. But talk about, in the military kind of structures, builds a mindset, but you can still go any way you want with that. You can choose to be a victim. You can choose to learn. Yep. Your tips to success were spot on. So, what is the mindset every day that you wake up with that allows you to get all these things completed and still have a family and still be a present husband?
Yeah, it's honestly, so I take a piece from the special operations world and actually a little bit of Henry Ford. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Mm-hmm. So just the mindset and mentality of that. And here's another thing. You need to get 7 layers deep on yourself and ask why you want to do this. Mm-hmm. And then when you get that answer, ask yourself why that is. And when you get that answer, ask yourself why that is. Because only a deep rooted why is going to make you very successful. And the more successful you get, you guys, it's not about money. My goal, actually I have a vision board right in front of me, give $1 million annually is my ultimate goal. So this is to me about giving. If you have, you must give. Mm-hmm. And we live in the most amazing country on the planet to be able to do that. But here's my why. For the memory and pride of those who've gone before me, for they loved to fight, fought to win, and would rather die than quit. I was the burial detail NCO for a special operations unit, buried a lot of my friends. And I do these things for my brothers and sisters in the military because they can no longer do that. They can't feel pain. They can't see success. They can't run after something anymore. They're not breathing. So find that deep-rooted why. If someone asks you what your why is, and you say, it's my wife and kids, maybe it is, and that's great. But why is that important to you that you are successful for your wife and kids? And when you answer that, ask yourself, well, why is that? Really get back and deep inside you. Because in order to get your butt up every single morning and do this with 5 brands, a full-time W-2 job, and all multifamily assets and all this stuff, you need to have a butt-kicking why that's going to get you up every day, make your bed, and get after it.
I got chills. I want to salute you. I want to run through a fucking wall. I'm like, this guy's my new best friend. And I love it. And it's the truth. And I'm not trying to talk about myself. I will on this podcast because it's easy to put it in context. Yeah. I'm doing 3 Ironmans this year. Like, that shit's crazy. And so the thing is my why is greater than myself. And the reason is because there's something I learned about myself a while back. I have a way of elevating the people around me to push through things that they probably would not do without me around.
Perfect. Yeah.
So the joke with me is they want me to create a separate podcast that says my life before I met Austin Linney and my life after, right? And that's the joke. And the thing is I cannot not help people, right?
Yeah.
And so, when people look at me, they say, Austin's got 3 businesses and he's doing this and that. And they try to put their expectations on me. They say, "Oh, slow down." I'm like, okay, first of all, back off and don't get around me if you're going to tell me that. Yeah. But the second thing is what they don't understand about me is the reason I'm doing all this is the same reason you said, because I know, and this is something that I adopted about 8 months ago, money's tight or whatever, I still give without, because, Tony Robbins said, if you give now, when you're poor, it won't change. You got to give now to start the habit. And so people think that I want to create. There's only 2 reasons I'm doing all these things I'm doing. One is personal freedom, to be able to spend time with my wife and my family. The second thing is to give back. That's give back. Create schools, create programs. These are the things that I. What's
this
that?
Is a fake $1 million bill.
Yeah.
That my kids got for me because they know that I have. Hold on a second. They have this on one of my vision boards. Give $1 million. I'm looking at give $1 million every day. I have it on that vision board. I have it right across from me on the opposite side of the wall. Give $1 million. I mean, you have to.
You'll be so much more fulfilled with doing that than ever making it.
Here's another thing about the power of mindset. I was keynote speaking at an event in Kansas City in December, and I said one of my goals for 2020 is to provide 1 home for a homeless veteran.
I'm really glad. I'm really glad because this is what we connected on. This is where I'm excited.
And so now we've raised $16,000 of $35,000 needed for a Veterans Community Project to build 1 home for a homeless veteran. Now I'm connected with. So I made that statement, and then I was within a week connected with Veterans Community Project, and now we're raising money for them. My kids are going to go out later this year and help them build these homes, and so they see the value. And so, go back to what you said. And what I mentioned earlier a little bit is we kind of do this a little bit selfishly, but not in a bad way. There's nothing bad about it. It fulfills my life purpose, but it's my life purpose is to help other people. So that's part of the drive, part of the reason, manifesting these things in your life are important. And, I don't know, I love that.
And as soon as you told me about it, because we connected on it, and I donated it literally while I was walking out the door, because it's a no-brainer for me. And it's something that with my development company, it's something that I know me and you are going to work on in the near future. So I'm really excited. And what's exciting, we were talking a little bit about some of my guys are in high finance and they do well for themselves, well. and they maybe didn't grow up with much. One's from Peru. And, he told me something a year ago that blew me away. He said, I was poor, like really poor. And he put himself through school and all this stuff. And I got my first bonus check for my job. He manages like $9 billion. And he said, I got that bonus check. And he said, that thing had a bunch of zeros on it. I sat there and I stared at it for like 30 minutes. And he goes, I thought it was going to make me feel better. He goes, it didn't make me feel anything.
Yeah.
And it was at that moment that I realized that if you create your why around what I call, this is my new word. It's not a new word, but this is my new drive, impact investing. And when you create, when you stop making money the issue and you create impact of other people and education and growing together is what I call it, then you'd be surprised how quickly opportunities will flow your way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that, there's a book I read by Kyle Cease called The Illusion of Money. And the reason that you don't have it is because you want it. And my big push right now is that I think too many people live their life on goals, monetary goals, instead of living a life through intention. And I think when you're intending to feel healthy and you're intending to impact other people, you wake up every day going, how can I be a better part of somebody's life? And especially what we're dealing with right now, guys, with the virus and everything we have going on, this is the time to change those daily habits, right? Those daily things of instead of worrying about how much toilet paper you have and how much food you have in your closet, why don't you reach out to somebody, a vet or a neighbor, an older neighbor, and ask them if they have toilet paper.
Yeah.
And you'd be amazed how those smaller little motions and those smaller little changing of your perception, I would imagine would help. And like I'll keep going back to it. You could buy 1,000 units, but I bet watching a student who didn't think he was going to own an investment property is probably a greater thrill.
Yeah. What feeds us is the feedback we get in our community when we say, I read your book today and, I took action. And we got a guy I was just highlighting. Actually, I just passed him on to be featured in a Military Influencer magazine because he literally found us. He kind of he got on our Facebook group. He lurked in the background for about 3 months, and he took advantage. We have like 16 free things, including our book on our website. But a tax advisor, free coaching call. We have a financial foundations book for free. We have all these things for free. He took them all, and he read them all. And then he went to a local. We have like 30 ADPI local meetups across the country. He went to one. And he met one of my partners, one of the other co-founders there. And then he bought a duplex and used the military house act. He bought a duplex with, the VA loan. And then he bought one of our coaching products. And all along the way, we didn't know who he was because he wasn't saying anything. And then all of a sudden he goes, hey guys, and he's doing this 30-day Facebook Live challenge where we give him, I don't know if you're familiar with the challenge coin in the military. Mm-hmm. So anyone who does 30 days live and has taken action and done one deal, we call them ADPI heroes, and we put them on the ADPI Hero Hall of Fame and give them a coin and some things because they're people who are taking action and really doing this. And so I don't know, I'm going with that, but it's amazing to really see that that's why we do this. We get that feeling. This guy goes, hey guys, this is what I did. You didn't know I was doing this, but I did this directly because I followed what you told me to do. And we're just telling people to do what we know is right based on the path we've already followed, a path well-worn that we have weathered through. And now we're doing all these different investing things, and we can help mentor people through the process. And I wanted to talk again about mentorship for a second. You mentioned it earlier with mindset. Guys like Jun Shin, who I'm talking about right now, he's a naval officer. Amazing example of somebody who understands that learn, network, take action, and add value are the keys. I've had people I know, people I've served with in my same unit come to me and say, I don't think that people should have to add value to others to be mentored. I want to be mentored. You get that all the time, right? Can you mentor me? Yeah. And you're like, well, okay, that's kind of like a weird question. Yeah. That's not how it really works. Let me show you how that works. So, but I've had people say that who are kind of now disengaged because they don't understand that there's a critical component to adding value to your mentor. That's how you build rapport. Eventually friendships come from it. But man, so people who do take that into consideration and add value to others, it's a much simpler process to get through. And others who think that you shouldn't ever have to pay for coaching and that you shouldn't ever have to add value to a mentor, those are people who have roadblocks their entire career, and they can go piece it together over a 10-year process on their own and have costly mistakes. But it's those who are willing to follow well-laid paths that have the most success.
Leave your ego at the door. Number one.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you this story because I know that it's going to put a smile on your face and it's going to get a big kick from you. I'm a little wild, so I will fly anywhere. My joke is have plane will network. So I'll literally fly up to Detroit just for a meetup.
Okay.
And I met like so many people. There's a guy in Arizona. He wholesales like 65 houses a year. Yeah. He flips like 100. He's my boy. Like, he's really good, crazy good investor, kids, the whole nine. Very busy guy. For like 6 months, I'm trying to get a time where I could fly out to Arizona and meet up with him. And he keeps pushing it back. And it's like December 1st. And I just sent him a picture. I said, hey, you're done. January 6th, I bought a plane ticket. I'll be there. Clear your day. Get over it. So I flew in for like 24 hours. Well, he set up some stuff and blah, blah, blah. Well, I had known that he is obsessed with Cadillacs. So I rented a 1968 Cadillac DeVille, drop top with exhaust and wheels. You know, I mean, this baby was sick. And I pulled up to his office, and he has told that story like 50, and I let him drive it all day. Yeah, because your intake form says, what is this guy's hobby? What is he like? You're intentional about networking. So we went to a meetup, and he tells 50 investors, he goes, listen, you young whippersnappers. He goes, this is how you show up to meet somebody. He goes, not only did this guy buy a plane ticket, not only did he show up in a Cadillac, I will know this. And the thing is like, when I leave you, I need you to remember me. There's so many people that you meet. Yes. How are you going to stick out from the crowd? You know, and follow up, right? And understand that for me, I think the number one thing in my mindset was ego, right? Like, I had to get rid of that, like, ego. Like, and the thing is like, what people don't understand. So I just finished a topic of habits before we got on. Mm-hmm. This is my new thing. Guys, when we're talking about real estate investing and we're talking about getting started, you're talking about these military guys, they start with small, winnable things. You know, you read that book, you take that class. You know, at the first meetup you go to, of course you're not going to know what the hell's going on. But what you don't understand, and I think this is the number one thing that people do, people are so quick to put their views on somebody else's thoughts. Guys, you have no idea what Eric is thinking when he walks in a room. You have no idea what I'm thinking when I walk in a room. So be open, be pleasurable, professional, nice, and you're the same way. It drives my wife nuts. I will tell the gas station person behind the thing, hey, I do Airbnbs and I'm an investor. And she's like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, because you have no idea who they're going to know or who they're going to think. Because that guy probably owns a franchise with 10 gas stations in it. 100%. You know? Yeah. And let me ask you a question, because you seem like you're good at a lot of things, right? But there's a team at your group, and there's this thing. What's your thoughts real quickly on just positioning? You know, everybody's talk is, you know, double down on your strengths. Don't try to feel your weaknesses. Like, you seem like you handle a repertoire of many things pretty good. And you know, I'm sure you would like to be a little more efficient in certain areas, but like, what's your thoughts on stuff like that? Yeah, I think my strongest asset is the team we've built. And we recognize that it's one thing to get the right people on the bus, but you have to get the right people in the right seat also. Mm-hmm. And so we're recognizing, you know, when you're starting any business, whether it be just a single family business or a multifamily business, whatever it is, you wear a lot of hats right at the beginning, probably especially in single family, but just in entrepreneurship in general, you wear a lot of hats. But once you build out a team, if you're good at building out a team, eventually it becomes critical that you focus on what you're good at.
because you'll be more passionate, you'll be more focused, you'll be more successful if you're allowed to kind of exercise what you're inherently good at and enjoy. What you're good at is typically something you enjoy doing because it's not work. It doesn't feel like work. So the networking aspect, I'm kind of ended up being one of the PR guys, on our team going around, and I'm the guy, whenever we buy an asset, I'll go and have lunch with the mayor, and I'll meet with the dean of the school across the street, and hospital administrators nearby, whatever it is, to make sure that the community knows who we are and what our mission is. And, so yeah, I think that it's critical that people focus on what they're good at. And the reason that I have done a lot of different things is because my personal mission is to educate, empower, and to help people grow. And without having some knowledge and experience with each one of those things that I've done, I'm not going to be able to effectively execute my mission. So you have to know a little bit about everything. I should say I have to know a little bit about everything because it fulfills my life mission. Now, I am also not the guy on my team right now that likes to underwrite. I don't want to be behind a computer. I have a guy on my team, Adam Labar. He's amazing, and he doesn't mind at all being in front of. Numbers are what makes sense to him, and those make dollars for us. So, I just think it's important to understand what you're passionate about, and then at the beginning, you've got to do a little bit of everything. I mean, look, I've done single family fix and flip. I've done single family BRRRR, tax liens, self-directed IRA, multifamily, self-directed IRA, first trust deeds. I've done, all of these different little things, multifamily, small multifamily, residential, all of these things that I've done in real estate so that I know what they are. Like I know I hate tax liens. I'm never going to invest in another tax lien in my life. It's just not my thing. Mm-hmm. I met a guy actually at Best Ever who all he did was tax liens.
Yeah.
And he loves it. And I was like, I'll sell them all to you at a discount.
Great. Have them all.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it depends on who you are. You really have to look, I think, first at who you are as a person and what your strengths are. And then once you recognize that, hack through the weeds until you have a system in place and a team in place, and then start exercising your own vision.
The greatest gift you can give to the world, guys, is being the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
It's the simplest answer in the world. You, by being the best version of yourself, allows yourself to let the people around you raise up their level, right? And vice versa. Everybody thinks you need to affect other people. Work on yourself, look at yourself, do the hard work, lean in. That was my 2019 motto, lean in. Just say yes to everything, lean into the trouble, all of it, and just see what happened if I just leaned into the stuff I didn't want to deal with. And it was amazing how it changed my life. What's
your 2020 motto?
Emotional stability.
Nice.
So I have a tendency to ride the wave. Mm-hmm. I'm a very passionate guy. And I understand that by being excitable and a little, what we used to call, my personality is the Tasmanian devil, which I've gotten a lot better with because I don't drink anymore mainly. But with that kind of energy, you attract a certain person that might not be the most pleasurable. If you're more emotional stability, you're going to attract in the right kind of crowd you want.
Yeah.
So with all this virus stuff, it's not helping, but we're good. The obstacles are not as high as they were in 2019.
The obstacle is the way.
Yes.
Get a little stoicism in there.
Like
so food, family, fitness, and focus are my kind of words, my F words this year. Mm-hmm. And you said you're doing an Ironman. Mine got postponed until October now.
So mine got postponed. It's it's this Sunday. I'm still running it.
You're kidding me.
No, hell no.
Oh, by yourself?
By myself.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
So when I make a commitment, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I might not be able to do the swimming part, but I'm going to do all the rest of them. And then my next one is in July 18th in New York. Where's your one in October?
It was Oceanside, April 4th.
Sure.
And now it's October.
So I'm doing
it's Oceanside.
I'm doing a full in Tempe, November 22nd. But next winter in the 2001, I'm doing Sacramento.
Cool. Nice.
So, and then
That's
we're going to go to
me.
Then we're going to go to Napa afterwards, even though I don't drink, but I sold wine for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a babysitter, bring the wife. My mentor is buying a winery. So we'll go,
awesome.
We'll slum it. Really.
Yeah.
But what I want to make sure they get a heart, because I know that it's very important to me, because I'm going to be invested in y'all's charities and your mission any way I can help. I'm in. How do people get a hold of y'all? Have a podcast? You have so many tools to really educate just so many people.
Yeah, I mean, one of my jobs at the company is to get big hitter podcast guests. We've had Kiyosaki and Grant Cardone and Jocko Willink in the military world, all the Rich Dad advisors, and just a bunch of amazing guests that have been willing to come on. But yeah, so we have a podcast, but if you're military, active duty, passive income, you can look it up, militaryrealestateinvesting.com. We'll take you right to the Facebook group. And we have tons of free resources. Our number one best-selling book on Amazon is free on our website, the digital version. So just trying to get that information out there. But yeah, I mean, I'm reachable to anybody. We support veteranscommunityproject.org. They are doing amazing things for veterans. They've been so successful that they have 3,000 communities across the U.S. ready to tackle the homeless veteran problem that we have in the U.S. There are currently about 38,000 homeless veterans, which is actually a very small number. I say small because it's achievable. That is, we are going to end veteran homelessness this decade. Mm-hmm. And a Veterans Community Project, I feel like, is going to be the spearhead of that whole mission.
One of the things that I want to do, that I'm looking to get into once we get my development company locked and loaded, is, for me, I've always wanted, we're already looking at a couple RV parks and so on and so on. I'm going to create a portion of that acreage, and then I'm just gonna make a tiny community for homeless people, for vets, and all that
awesome.
stuff. It's something that I want to do on all my properties. I have a client right now who's looking at 156 acres. He's ex-military. We're definitely talking about it. They're in contract to buy that in about 15 days. So these are the things that they think, guys, when you walk through life, thinking it's just about you, it's not. And these are the people that laid down their freedoms, and these are the people that continue to sacrifice so you can live free and watch your Netflix.
Yeah, that's right.
And once again, guys, if you liked what we're talking about here, please rate us and review us, share it with your friends. There's certain people that I bring on or I talk to for 5 minutes. It just make me feel like a better person. And this man right here is definitely one of them, even though we only met for like 7 minutes. But I just knew there was something about him that I liked, and now I know even more about him. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on, and I can't wait to release this out to the world.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here, and we're definitely going to stay in touch. I want to connect you with as many people as I can along the way. So
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.